Hi, I'm your host, Beth Renoff, and this is Are You Afraid of the Talk? Join me as I shine a light on the difficult conversations we keep in the dark. Follow the journeys of everyday people as they share their struggles with talking about different topics, from personal problems to societal issues. My hope is to get to the root of what holds people back from initiating these discussions and normalize these conversations by having them. So, are you afraid of the talk? Hi, and welcome to Are You Afraid of the Talk? I'm Beth Renoff, and I'm your host. And today we have Kate Griffith with us. And thank you for coming on, Kate. And why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself and what you do now, and everybody can get acquainted with you.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Beth.
You're welcome.
I'm so excited to be here today, and I'm really excited to have this conversation. And thank you for this platform in general, talking about the things that we are afraid to talk about. It's so amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
it's really important because I think, especially with the pandemic, we started seeing all the stuff we sweep under the rug, and I really wanted to
Yeah.
create a place that people can actually do this and maybe not feel so alone. I think we all kind of tapped into
Mhm.
podcasts and TV shows, and hearing people's stories, I think, is always motivating. And sorry to interrupt, but tell us like a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, totally. So I'm Kate Griffith, and I am a breathwork and Reiki practitioner and an empowerment coach. I help others to connect to their authentic expression and cultivate a heart based life because I really believe that that is the gateway to freedom, to empowerment, self love, and abundance.
And that's very aligned with what I do with my clients. And I really
Yeah.
try and peel back the layers of like the most authentic self. And I think combining Reiki and breath work and empowerment is all part of the deal, right? So I love what you
Yeah,
do.
totally.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I always like to start out with an icebreaker just to like kind of get to know you a little bit and, see where your head's at. So what do you wish you had known like 10 years ago?
Yeah. So what do I wish I knew 10 years ago? First of all, I feel like 10 years ago, I was in my early 20s. I forget my age sometimes. So I forget that I'm in my late 30s, but regardless, what do I wish I knew 10 years ago? I think this really would be one, trust my intuition. I've always had really strong intuition, but I didn't really know how to lean into it. I think it would also be like, be you, do you, girl. Like, be all that you are and get to know who that is. And really, lastly, is like, stop looking externally for all things. Like, everything exists already inside of yourself,
Hmm.
and get to know the inner workings of Kate Griffith.
Hmm. And that's such a good lesson. And we have hindsight when we're older. So it's easy to look back and be
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, yeah, like I wish I was that way.
Yes, yes. There is a quote that I'll probably butcher it. I'm really great at butchering quotes, but it's by Steve Jobs, and he says like you can't always connect the dots looking forward, but you can connect the dots looking backward, and that's so true. Like I can look backward and tell myself and give myself that advice,
Yes,
but I can't really connect those that going forward.
of course. And I love that. I think that's such a great way to look at it. It's so much
Hmm.
easier to look backwards and see what we wish we had done differently. And of course, we know because we've had the experience of our lives. So it's
Yeah,
different when you have an uncertainty of what it will look like. But
of
I
course.
really love that like reflection and really compassionate voice that you have, like looking backward instead of beating yourself up for not doing something. It's really refreshing to have that
Mhm.
positive outlook of like, okay, I can look back and say, you did the best you could here, and I wish you knew this.
Yeah. I mean, really, I notice that people hold so much of the past and bring that along in their future. And we're really doing ourselves a disservice with that because at the end of the day, the past already happened. And everything is a lesson at the end of the day. And if you can just see everything as that and less regret or mistake, and don't even label something a mistake or regret, but really just see it as a life lesson that you is now part of you, and will always be part of you. And that's the beauty of this life, what we get to carry with us and what we choose to let go of and what we choose to carry in the future.
So it's like such a good outlook of not really being in a victim stage of, oh, why did this happen to me? Would my life be different? And
Mhm.
that's totally okay. I think we all have a place and time for that. But it's really like, why did this happen for me? And what did I learn from this
Mhm.
experience? And I think about that movie
Mhm.
Silver Linings Playbook. It's like it's
Yeah.
crappy situations, but they did such a good job of finding the silver lining. And it's such a good outlook to have. And I think it's really hard to cultivate. But when you do, you're a much more grateful person. You're much more aware of yourself. And you don't, spend your life wishing it away instead of doing things that are in
Mhm.
your control. And I think that's such a fantastic
Yeah.
way to look at life.
Totally. I think the more that we sit in acceptance in general, that we can sit deeper in like trust and surrender of what's going to happen because we've accepted what's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can sort of sit in that trust that like whatever's going to happen in the future, like we can accept that it's going to be for us.
Right.
In
Absolutely.
life, like you said, like life is happening
Mm.
for us, not to us.
Right. Um, so what is something that's easy for you to talk about that you don't even have to have a second thought, but you easily share with a crowd? Not maybe not a crowd, but like with friends or strangers, even that doesn't even phase you.
Yeah. So I mean, I hate to give you like a really generalized answer here,
Uh-huh.
but I think that when you can sit in your heart and you can communicate from the heart and less from ego, I think that all conversations become easier, even
Mhm.
if they aren't the pretty conversations, right? It's not
Mhm.
about like the highlight reel of your life, but if
Mhm.
you can just communicate from that heart space and with less ego, everything becomes easier. And
Mhm.
those are the conversations that I love to have. Like, I want someone to get to know me, like below the surface, like what's under
Mhm.
there, like what have I gone through, like again, not the highlight reel. And I want to get to know other people
Mhm.
below the surface, like what's in your heart. Like I want to know, yeah, like how is your day going, but like I want to know how is your heart feeling, like how are
Mhm.
you doing.
Mhm.
And not the like, oh hey, how are you, oh I'm fine, oh how are you, oh I'm fine
Mhm.
too, like okay, great, we're all fine,
Mhm.
but like what's really there.
Mhm.
I'm kind of tired of those surface level conversations and like,
Mhm.
let's dive deep. Let's
Right.
talk about what's going on
Mhm.
in the world, in our heart, in our communities. Like, let's have those conversations,
Mhm. Was
which
there
is
a
what you're doing
right,
here.
which I'm trying to do. But I was there a point where that wasn't easy for you to do?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Mhm.
For sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
I was living a surface level life. I was living very externally. Like I didn't know what my internal connection looked like at all.
Mhm.
So I was always looking outside of myself. I always like tease that I'm like a recovering perfectionist, validation seeker, and people pleaser. And that
Mhm.
mixture is really the perfect storm for not getting to know yourself, truly, your heart, and connecting to your heart,
Mhm.
which, led me to so many different dead ends
Mhm.
and not allowing people to see the real me.
Mhm.
I wasn't allowing me to see the real me,
Right.
really, at
Right.
the end of the day. And if I wasn't willing to acknowledge who I am, what I'm about, what I like, what I don't like sit in all of my goofiness, awkwardness, like what have you,
Mhm.
and just be, I wasn't willing to be that. So why would anyone else allow me to be that?
Right. So what do you think
Mhm.
was a topic that was comfortable for you while you were in that space?
While I was in that space, yeah, that mindset, like, I could talk about clothes, I could talk about bags, I could talk about what we're doing this weekend,
Mhm.
where we're gonna eat, cool,
Mhm.
how's that gonna look on our Instagram feed, like, that's what I could talk about.
Mhm.
Those are the conversations before that were there was no satisfaction there. I just
Mhm.
didn't realize it at the time.
Mhm.
I lived in South Florida for 10 years, so you can't, and originally from Ohio, so you can't really move to South Florida without it, not affecting you, or without it affecting you just a little bit.
Mhm.
And it affected me. Like it affected every aspect of my life.
Mhm.
Some now that I can see in, such a beautiful way, and some
Mhm.
in ways where like I wasn't sure if I liked myself anymore.
Mhm. And
Mhm.
it sounds like those are easy topics because there's really nowhere that feels unsafe of like, oh, it's going to trigger a feeling inside me I don't like, and I might have a reaction that I don't like. And what I really hear too sometimes is that it's
Mhm.
about control. I can
Oh, control.
control that type of
Yeah.
conversation. And I feel like we are, like, as a culture, just on a surface level. And that's like what we can
Mhm.
handle. And I like asking this question because
Mhm.
almost everybody has the same answer. It's never like,
Yeah.
oh, it's like my job or my family's okay. We're going to travel here. But it's never like a deep conversation about
Mhm.
where we're at. And if you ask anybody, how are you doing? Most people are like, I'm good, but they're really not
Mhm.
good. you
Yeah, yeah. I know it's like just like you're in passing and of course it's like, "Oh,
Right,
good, good."
right, right,
But I don't mind stopping for like
right.
3 minutes just to like get to the bottom of what's going on.
Right, right. And I feel like I wish more people were open to that. Like, I stopped one of my friends, we saw each other on the street, and I was taking a medical aid in dying class, and that's a very heavy topic. And
Sure.
we bumped into each other and had this like 15-20 minute conversation about that and how surreal it is and what it must be like. And I feel like if we just all had a little bit more empathy and
Mhm.
trusted that these conversations aren't going to make us fly off the handle. you know I,
Right.
I feel like it just triggers people's insecurities and vulnerability, and vulnerability is a scary thing. So I think people are like, this is just really safe and I don't have to go any deeper.
Sure, definitely. And I think that, and we can play life safe, right? But
Hmm.
really, like at the end of the day, what's the fun in that?
Hmm.
What's the we're here. We're here in this human experience. Like let's experience it all the emotions
Hmm.
and, you know, live a life just full of, our own truth and
Hmm.
freedom of expression.
Hmm.
And how that looks for each person's going to be different. But I before was really trying to live a life just like, let's blend in, let's do it safe,
Yes.
let's be really, really safe.
And I think you just hit the head on the nail. It's all about being accepted and feeling like we belong and fitting in. And it's either to camouflage
Hmm.
ourselves because we don't want to stand out, or it's so scary, to not fit in and feel like an outsider.
Yeah, yeah. But
Hmm.
it's a really lonely way to live at the end of the day
Hmm.
because your soul knows, right? Like your
Hmm.
soul knows that there's more there. And
Hmm.
I just feel like it's going to kind of keep showing you that or
Hmm.
sending you signals, signs, red flags, like what have you. Like it's going to keep sending them your way until you sit down and you listen to that heart. And it's like, okay, what is my heart craving? What is my heart asking for?
Hmm.
And like really and truly, this isn't easy.
Hmm.
But really connecting to, okay, I know this isn't for me, or whatever it is, or this is what I'm craving more of in my life. This is what
Hmm.
feels inspiring. This is what makes me feel really yummy. Like getting to know that,
Hmm.
then blending in doesn't mean as much.
Right.
And being part of community matters, but they're with the right people
Right.
and not having to blend in, letting yourself be in all your awkward grace.
Hmm. So, do you mind sharing how that looked like for you? Like, how did you know your soul was speaking? What was it saying to you? And how did you start to listen to it? Like, what did that process look like?
Yeah. So I've hit a lot of what I will call like my rock bottoms, but right, my rock bottoms externally look fine.
Hmm.
She looks fine, she's put together, like she's doing her thing, but internally like I was miserable. And when I these rock bottoms really for me probably the deepest rock bottom was I've gone through sort of the perfectionism and the validation seeking, which is always
Hmm.
recipe for disaster, and people pleasing along with that. An eating disorder, working out disorder, if you want to call it that, over
Hmm.
exercising, really a lot of self sabotage,
Hmm.
and then alcoholism. I don't really determine whether it's alcohol abuse or alcoholism. Like I don't really know. All I know is that it was my vice. It was my thing I would reach
Hmm.
for. It was the thing that I would reach for when I wasn't feeling. accepting, when I wasn't feeling good, when my heart was hurting. Like I just wanted to mute things around. So I was just looking for it. I was reaching for it to suppress.
Mhm.
And then it was just this constant cycle that I was moving through. Okay, great. So next day I'd wake up, I'd feel terrible. I wouldn't eat any food. I would drink a ton of water. I'd have my coffee. I would force myself to go to the gym to work off all the alcohol just to feel like shit the next day, and do
Mhm.
it all over again and just keep in that cycle and that spiral. And again, through many different rock bottoms, um, I just got to a place where truly, and I didn't want to live that life anymore. Like I didn't want to be here if that was my future.
Mhm.
If that was all that this life meant to me, was that need to be accepted, be validated by
Mhm.
others. And when I wasn't feeling that, then suppress all of my emotions, all of my feelings, all this trying to come to the surface,
Mhm.
and wake up the next day with the most awful hangover just to do it
Mm,
again the next day.
right. Um,
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. And, I think this is a common thing with people who identify with having an issue with alcohol, right?
Hmm.
Most of the time it's to numb, it's to not feel or feel something, like be able to
Yeah,
like let your guard down so something will come up or just completely numb yourself.
sure.
But you
Hmm.
talk about the people pleasing and being a perfectionist. What do you think contributed to those? Because they're really trauma responses, right? What do you think contributed to those behaviors?
Yeah. So, I know we like in the healing space, we talk a lot about the inner child, right?
Hmm.
And I want to say that nothing exactly happened in my childhood that prompted that, but I was a
Hmm.
perfectionist and looking for validation from a really young age. Something
Hmm.
that I don't actually remember, but my sister does. She's 5 years older than me, and she just remembers that we would be somewhere with my mom, and everyone would look at me as a little child and be like, "Oh, she's so pretty."
Hmm.
And to my sister was sitting there like, "Hey, what about me?"
Right.
But then for me as a kid, I guess I don't know what if I was told that. Like I had these huge blue eyes. They were like the same size that they are right now, and this little like itty bitty head, little bitty body, and
Hmm.
like blonde hair. Um, so I don't know if it was from that. And then with sports, when I was a kid, everyone's like, "Oh, she's so good. It came really easy. It came naturally. Like my parents are athletes. Like came
Hmm.
natural." And then in school, I was really good at school. Like I got A's. I was valedictorian. I was
Hmm.
homecoming
Hmm.
queen. Like all
Wow.
those things. I think it was just a buildup of all of those things,
Hmm.
that just led to that's who you are. That's what you do. Like
Hmm.
you're good at stuff. That's the
Hmm.
only thing that you're allowed to be. And then
Hmm.
if I wasn't good at something, like I'd rather throw in the towel. I'd rather be like, nope, I'm not doing it. I don't want to.
Hmm.
So I think that's probably where it stemmed from.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think that's
Mm.
so important because I think when people think of someone with an substance use issue, they think, oh, okay, they must have had the worst trauma. Like they had a near
Yeah.
death experience, their parents abused them. When trauma could be your parents didn't give you the attention when you needed it and they were because they were busy, or
Right.
this
Yeah.
internalized like, oh, they expect this of me, now I have to match that at everything I do and be as perfect as possible. So maybe it felt good to get the attention and you wanted more, or maybe because people reacted in a certain way you're like, oh, okay, I need to make sure they're comfortable, I need to make sure I'm impressing them and meeting their expectations. And as a child, we don't have the brain capacity to be like, well, what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you feel?
Right.
So
Yes.
that makes
Yes.
so much sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And again, like connecting dots backwards is a little easier.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's where it all stemmed from. But and now the perfectionism doesn't go away, right?
Hmm.
Validation doesn't exactly go away. People pleasing doesn't go away. But how do you use it to your benefit,
Hmm.
right? Like how do you shed light on those? We can call them shadows. Like how do you? Because it's going to forever be with me most likely. But
Hmm.
how do I use it for good,
Hmm.
versus what I was using it for in my life before.
Hmm. Well, I think we can work on it and you can unlearn
Yes.
that this doesn't give me, I don't need this in a survival mode anymore. I don't need this for
Yes.
approval. But how do I get, and listen, external validation feels good. I don't think anybody is like, I don't like being told I'm really good at something and that I'm excelling.
Right.
Like, we all want that, but we're disappointing ourselves first instead of the opposite.
Mhm.
Because that's really like we're
Yeah.
operating from a place where, oh, I need to meet their needs, not mine, and you come last. So it's just learning,
Yeah, yeah.
how can I put myself first, and really thinking, am I going to
Mhm.
disappoint myself, or are they going to be disappointed? Because we can't control what other people feel. So they're going to
Sure.
have to learn to deal with disappointment. And as long as you're not harming someone, like, it's okay. And I
Yeah.
think we've labeled that as selfish, and it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's how do I lean into validation deeper, my self-validation,
Right.
validating
Right.
myself. How
Right.
do I validate deeper that like I am perfect just as I am?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else has to change. Like,
Mm-hmm.
my heart is pure. And how
Right.
do I use that again versus what I was
Mm-hmm.
looking for before, which was just external.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
Mhm.
So it seems like there was a time where it was really hard for you to have conversations as easily as you have them now, because you've clearly done a lot of work
Mhm.
on yourself, and this is the outcome, is you are more confident in yourself,
Yeah.
you love yourself, you don't feel worried about necessarily what someone else is going to think, right? But there are points in our lives where that wasn't easy. What was that like for you, and what stopped you from having conversations about where you were at, how your heart feels?
Yeah. So yeah, I think that the alcohol was one of the heaviest conversations and something that I held on to. Like, not only was I using it to suppress my emotions, but I was suppressing the conversation that I knew
Mhm.
I needed to have. And looking back now, like I know in my early to mid 20s that that's when it was becoming an issue,
Mhm.
and it was going out with friends, and one drink led to two, which led to 10, and then it was one day led to 2 days, led to a week.
Mhm.
um and I didn't like myself in who I was with it. My
Mhm.
body rejected it, and it was really just a crutch for me.
Mhm.
So I knew that for a long time, but because again, I needed to be perfect. I was worried about other people to think. I was worried about like, okay, South Florida, like what will I do on a boat with friends if I'm not like drinking? If I'm gonna go
Mhm.
out with them, like what am I gonna do? Like how can I dance on a table if I haven't had alcohol in my system? Like those are the things that I was worried about. Like, what am I gonna
Yeah,
do on a first date if I don't have alcohol in my system?
absolutely.
Like, who am I gonna be? What am I gonna say?
Uh-huh.
Which, again, easier to look back now is like the silliest thing because like I should just be worried about being me. Um, but yeah, so I held that conversation in. Like I didn't tell friends. And
Mhm.
actually when I was ready to tell friends, I remember some people sort of giving me grace and they were which is beautiful, right?
Mhm.
They're my friends and they wanted to support me, but they were like, "Oh, maybe you're just moving through a really rough time and
Mhm.
maybe." And I was like,
No.
I know that I am moving through a tough time, but this tough time has extended for the last few years. So I
Mhm.
haven't been in a tough time for that long.
Mhm.
So a lot of people were giving me, an out and, giving me that grace, which I love and appreciate about them.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I wasn't telling the people closest to me, like family or
Mhm.
partners, um, and my best friend, because I was like, the moment I voice it, I
Mhm.
have to do something about it. If I say alcohol is
Mhm.
a problem in my life, I cannot have it in my life, I'm setting boundaries around it, then there has to be follow through. And I
Yes.
wasn't ready for that follow through. Like I couldn't do it. And so I couldn't voice it. Like my throat chakra was fully
Wow.
blocked in that sense because my whole body knew that if I let this out, there has to be something that comes after.
Mhm. Wow. That's so insightful.
Mm.
Like, really, that's like moving. And I think that is dead on why so many people have a problem with anything, is like
Yeah.
relationships. If I say it out loud that we're not doing well, I have to do something about it.
Yeah.
Alcohol, food, literally anything. And it's so scary to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, it is. And the funny part is now that, like, I love to talk about my dreams, my goals, my desires,
Mhm.
my fears, because I'm not afraid of them, but I was
Right.
so afraid of this. I was so fearful of the life that this version of myself didn't exist in, because I thought, "Okay, there's a new version of me on the other side of, my glasses of wine."
Right.
And I was afraid of that version of me. I was afraid to be fully me,
Mhm.
because I knew without, I have to let go of a part of myself that I have created in my mind,
Mhm.
created for other people, and step into something that is really unknown.
Mhm. It's the uncertainty. It's like, what will I
Yeah.
look like? Will I be fun? Was there a feeling of like you're gonna fail other people?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. What are other people going to think?
Right.
And I'm sure we'll get to it, but it's still to this day, it's there's a little like look when you don't order, um, a glass of something or a cocktail. It's like, huh.
Yeah.
Or there are the questions that usually follow, which now I love talking about because it's fun to express and it feels really good and it's part of
Mhm.
my healing journey.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't think I could have handled those questions well. And the
Mhm.
amount of times where I quit drinking, um, and then would go out, and the moment like someone was like, "Oh, what would you like?" I was like, "Ooh," my head was saying, like my heart was saying, "You don't want anything. You just would like some water."
Mhm.
And then but no, I'd be like, "Oh, I would like a glass of X, Y, and Z."
Mhm. Yeah, it's like you were betraying yourself just to
Mhm.
feel accepted. And I think that's a
Yeah.
really big struggle. And you said something before of like, well, I was 22 or 23 or mid 20s. And what were people going to think if I didn't order something? How could I have fun, dancing on a
Mhm.
table? And I'm sorry to laugh, but it's just so true. You're like, how could I have fun doing this? Because your
Mhm.
entire world in your 20s is your friends, is socializing. So it's
Right.
such an ostracizing feeling to be like, I'm not doing the thing that everybody does every single weekend, even every day, to just you
Mhm.
work to play hard, and play hard isn't traveling, enjoying a really nice meal, spending
Yeah.
quality time with friends. It's let's get as fucked up as possible and have these like crazy stories, and
Right.
it's so different to look back and be like, I know that's where we're at, but
Mhm.
it sucks to have felt that way.
Yeah, yeah, it really does, especially, like, when deep down again, like, I have strong intuition, we all do, and
Mhm,
I knew in my gut, like, this didn't feel good. I knew in my heart it didn't feel good.
mhm.
But getting out of that cycle is, easier
Right.
said than done.
So,
Mhm.
what was there something that happened, or what was? Do you mind describing like what your recovery looked like, and what you did and what worked for you?
Yeah, totally. So, as I was, getting to know myself better, like really and truly, once I got to a place where I was like, one of my rock bottoms, where I was like, I just don't like me anymore. And I'm like, who is me? Can I get to know me in a deeper level? So I really started on my healing journey, working with different practitioners,
Mhm.
mentors, and whatnot. And I just realized that the more that I was shedding, the less tolerant, and I was very intolerant to
Mhm.
alcohol to begin with.
Mhm.
But I was even less tolerant the more that I was shedding. It was literally my soul saying, like, honey, we can't do this anymore. Doesn't
Mhm.
feel good anymore. Let's stop. So I had a day. Ironically, I was walking to the wine store
Mhm.
and picked up my wine. On the way out, I see a dead bird, and dead birds mean like death, rebirth.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I saw it and I was like, okay, I know what that means. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, with this information. And it wasn't there when I walked into the store. Like it literally
Okay.
happened between the time where I was walking out and I was like,
Wow.
okay, if this isn't a sign that like I need to stop. Anyway, I go home. I drink the whole bottle of wine. I feel terrible. I'm in a new relationship with my boyfriend, my boyfriend today,
Uh-huh.
and we have been dating maybe for like 2 months at that point,
Mhm.
maybe not even 2 full months.
Mhm.
And I drink the whole bottle of wine and I'm feeling all things, all emotions. And I'm like, this voice just like is in my head, like, tell someone, tell someone, tell someone, please, please help, tell someone. And so I call him or I message him and I'm like, hey, how are you? Like, where are you right now? He was like, I'm in Staten Island. I was like, could you maybe like make it to my place soon? And he was like, sure, everything okay? And I'm like, yeah. Which, funny enough, like, poor guy,
Yeah, he
he
saw
probably
you.
thought he was coming. He probably thought it was a booty call. Here, like, I am, like, a bottle
Right.
of wine, maybe even more deep, and I'm like asking for help, support, someone to hold me, hug me, and tell me it's going to be okay. So he comes
Mhm.
over and we have that conversation. And Beth, I know that you know my boyfriend, and he's
Mhm.
a kind, amazing, pure soul.
Yes.
So it's probably an easier conversation to have had with him because he is such an amazing individual. But like that's what I needed. I needed to voice it, tell someone. I remember him being like, okay, we're taking action. We are doing this. He throws out any alcohol that's in my home. He throws out my wine glasses, which I'm still sort of mad about because I really love to drink my green juice from a wine glass, like really into like romanticizing life. So I still think about it and I'm like, why'd you throw those out?
Yes.
And number 2, like, if I still really wanted to drink, like, a girl who wants to drink is gonna drink it straight from the bottle, like,
Right.
the wine glass doesn't matter, but he didn't want anything to trigger that in me to, like, the
Right.
remembrance of, like, "Hey, go grab something."
Right.
So, I was like, "Okay." And so each day, like, we just kept talking and talking about it and talking through it,
Mhm.
and, again, I was working with a mentor at the time, which I hadn't told her, which, like,
Mm.
that as a therapist, I'm sure, like, oh, it's great when people come to you and they withhold information. Like, I withheld
Oh,
that information because I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want her to
right.
see that because I was like, I can handle this on my own. And like, no,
Mhm.
honey, you really can't.
Right. But you had to come to that on your own, and even if you went
Yeah,
to a therapist and didn't tell them, that's okay. Like, you have to come
mhm,
to it when you're comfortable and
you're
your
right.
body was telling you it's safe enough to do this. And I truly
Yes,
believe that, like, it's okay. Like, I have clients, I mean, even in my experience in therapy, I didn't come to things until like 2, 3 years in, so
mhm,
it's
yes,
okay. And that is the beautiful part of healing is you come to these decisions. It would not have been effective if you said it and you weren't ready, right? Like exactly
yes.
what you were saying. Like you had to hold yourself accountable, and only you know when that time is for you.
Yes, totally. And for me, like it was loud and clear. I heard it. I knew this was my time. I knew I knew at that time, like my relationship with my boyfriend was gonna be something very special.
Mhm.
So I had to just let that out and like voice my truth.
Mhm.
And right, this is my whole evolution into like my most authentic self. And my most authentic self, unfortunately, has dealt with alcohol abuse
Mhm.
and or alcoholism again, like I don't really determine it one way or the other.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I had to voice it to people in my life. I had to talk to my best friend. I had to talk to my parents about it.
Mhm.
I had to, which is funny enough, like my grandmother was a great grandmother was an alcoholic, but we never had
Mhm.
those conversations
Right.
as a family because, like, keep it surface level, keep it sweet.
Mhm.
And so by voicing this, I got to learn so much about, my lineage in general.
Wow.
But I learned a lot about other people in the process and what other people were also moving through and the way that they felt towards alcohol. And so this was just every single day I would tell myself you can't have it today. If you want it tomorrow, you can have it tomorrow.
Right.
And I just kept telling myself that day in and
Mhm.
day out, over and over, which meant like I was always pushing off to the next day
Right.
until I really got to a place where I was like, oh my gosh, life without this substance is so freeing, so much more fun. I feel so much more alive, so much more awake. And as I started moving more into my own practice, this is like over time into my own practice of breath work and Reiki and holding space for other people, I had to be the purest version of myself.
Mhm.
And my heart had to be pure. And I couldn't allow that into my life any longer if I really wanted to hold space for people in the way that I know I can.
Mhm.
And so it was, I don't want to say it was easy,
Mhm.
but I really set boundaries around what I was at first, where I was willing to go. So I
Mhm.
remember one day a trigger came out, and my boyfriend asked, like, "Do you want to go to the beer garden with some friends?" And I panic set in and panic, and I was like, "Oh my
Mhm.
gosh!" I was like, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling good. Like, just like word vomit. Like
Mhm.
all the excuses of why I can't go, like came out of my mouth. Funny enough, like now that I know this couple, like one of them doesn't even drink, and the other one, like if she has like half a glass of wine, like she's totally cool.
Right.
But I was like, beer garden, it's too much. There's gonna be
Mhm.
just alcohol galore. And I had to take a step back, and I was like, okay, voice to him really why you can't go.
Mhm.
And my why I couldn't go was like, I'm not ready to be around it yet.
Mhm.
Like, that's a boundary, like, I need to set. I don't wanna be around it. I don't wanna smell it. I don't wanna, like, nothing.
Mhm.
And then I had to do the same when I went to, like, go visit some of my friends in South Florida. Like, I am so, so sorry. Like, I just can't be in those settings where
Mhm.
it's flowing. Like, dinner, that's cool. I want
Mhm.
you guys to enjoy, but I had to really be careful for some time,
Mhm.
where I was until I was fully ready to have the full conversation, talk through my why, and um, yeah, and that came over time for me. And
Mhm.
that came through my healing journey, right? Like that came through working with my mentor, like getting to know myself better, moving through my own breathwork practice, and getting to know myself on a deeper
Mhm.
level.
Mhm.
That I was like, oh my gosh, I really like this version of
Mhm.
me. I really like it,
Yeah.
and I don't really need to soften it. I don't really need to suppress anything. Like I feel really good. I want to feel. I
Mhm.
want to feel all things and all emotions. So, um, long story on like how that looked for me.
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. Did you
Yeah.
use or ever try something like AA or any of that stuff? Because I know there is such a split of people who are like, I hate that and it's not for me,
Yeah.
and people who are like, it's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, so I didn't. I did go to one meeting like years ago, um, with a kind of an acquaintance because really like I
Mhm.
wasn't ready to tell my like
Right.
bigger, group of friends. So I reached out to an acquaintance, and he had been in AA for some time.
Mhm.
And so I went to a meeting with him. And when you have to say like I am Kate and I'm an alcoholic, like I just burst into tears, which is what I needed to do, right?
Mhm.
But I left that meeting and I went to go buy alcohol, and ultimately like whatever,
Right.
drank myself into whatever it was
Mhm.
that I was drinking myself into that day.
Mhm.
um and so again, I don't think I was ready. I don't think I was ready to admit it.
Mhm.
And then the only feeling that I have is like anything that follows I am,
Mhm.
for me personally, is going to be empowering
Mhm.
and loving. And so for me to say like I am an alcoholic, which I'm happy to say,
Mhm.
but it didn't feel right for me.
Mhm.
So I lean towards like full empowerment and all empowering statements, and for that didn't doesn't feel good to my heart,
Mhm.
to have on repeat. But again, I know that it works for some people. I
Yeah.
know it's an amazing program, but I think that my healing and my letting go and my shedding really happened through a lot of energy work
Good.
and plant medicine,
Uh-huh.
seeing what a pure life could look like for me.
Uh-huh.
So that was my journey.
That's amazing. Thank you. And I think it's
Mhm.
important to highlight like the other ways to do it because I think people feel like they have one way and it's like if it doesn't align with them, well, it just must not be for me. I can't handle this. Instead of like searching for what does vibe with them and align with them
Yeah.
and helps them to keep going. And I think you pointed out
Mhm.
something really important. It's one day at a time. Like you can decide tomorrow to drink, but
Yeah.
today I'm going to really try not to, even 10 minutes at a time, an hour at a time. Like you take it in really small doses, you know? And I
Yeah.
think the overwhelming feeling of like, I'm never going to drink again, I think at the beginning, no one is going to be able to do that.
Sure.
It's too hard and not nobody, but
Mhm.
mostly not. I don't think that's
Yeah.
a common thing.
Yeah. And again, I have to make the statement that I had the best support that
Mhm.
I could have
Mhm.
in my partner.
Mhm.
So without that, I think it would have been really hard.
Mhm.
So maybe AA would have been the support that I needed. I
Right.
can't really determine that, but
Right.
I had such strong support in my
Mhm.
partner,
Mhm.
that that's why I was able to do it without.
Yeah. Well, that's
Mhm.
wonderful. And I think in life, we just need supportive partners for whatever we go through, you know? And I think that is such a key thing when looking for a relationship and looking for a perfect partner for you is knowing that
Mhm.
they're going to be able to support you during a really tough time. And it
Yeah.
sounds like you guys have such a healthy, wonderful relationship.
Yes. Yes. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
Very blessed.
So, is there something you feel is beneficial from being able to talk about this and have these hard conversations? What do you get out of that?
Ye Yeah, so I don't think that you realize until you start having hard conversations, the weight that is lifted
Mhm,
the moment that you just let it out and start talking through it and how good that feels.
mhm,
Like, we aren't meant to do this life alone, I don't think.
mhm,
And by not asking for help, like, you're really just sitting in that loneliness without, being able to use the expression of voice to
mhm,
let it out and let it go.
mhm,
And I think that's just something that I have learned with this situation with alcohol and many different situations
mhm,
is don't be afraid to have the talk.
mhm.
Have the talk, have the conversation. And sometimes you have to rinse and repeat it a couple of times before it feels comfortable or before you can let it go. But by holding it in, I don't think that we're doing ourselves, you know, um, we're doing ourselves a disservice by holding
Absolutely.
in all the things.
It becomes toxic because you're keeping this giant secret. And it's a lot
Yeah.
from yourself because it's denial. It's like, oh, it's not that
Mhm.
bad. I can keep this to myself and I can do this on my own. It's like, it's nearly impossible to do on your own, something like that.
Yes. Yes.
So,
I remember writing in a journal one time, like the secrets between my four walls. And
mm,
that was my secret, right? And maybe
mhm,
people knew, maybe people saw it in me or smelled it on me, like, I don't even know, but, you thought you were keeping it a secret, and it was like, this secret between my 4 walls
mhm,
is weighing me down.
mm. That's such a hard feeling to like sit with day in, day out.
Mhm. Yeah, it's that loneliness.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
but a loneliness that ultimately I was choosing by not
right,
speaking
right.
my truth.
Right, you're isolating yourself, and the biggest
Mhm.
thing that comes with isolation is shame, and,
Mhm.
and I think that's a big part of why people don't do it too, is it's so shameful to admit, "I need help. I can't do this on my own," when really at
Yeah.
the crux of it, we all need each other for most things, Maybe we've
Yeah.
had to be on our own in the past, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you have to be that way moving forward, and
Yeah. Yes, and it's not lack of independence. I think that's where
right,
I
right.
confused the 2,
Uh-huh.
where I was like, "No, I'm independent. I'm independent." Like, I've always been super independent. It's part of who I am. And I thought I was kind of taking away from that independence by asking for help and leaning on others.
That is the brilliant statement of this conversation. That is so true. That is so
Yeah,
true. We confuse getting help and receiving support with like being codependent or
yeah.
like not having our independence. And I hear this in with my clients and they're like, if I get in a relationship, I'm no longer this independent woman. And it's just like that's not true.
Mhm.
Like having connection, having support, we're human, we're wired for it. So it doesn't that's not the definition of independence. And it sounds like you created the definition for yourself of what is independence and what does support look like. And you were able to reconcile it in your
Mhm.
head that I don't have to trade one for the other.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I couldn't have said it better. Yeah, I didn't have to trade one for the other, and
Mhm.
on the other side of all of that was so much freedom.
Mhm. That's so beautiful and amazing. And thank you so much for sharing all that. I think this is a topic that so many people struggle with and really don't want to talk about. And we're hearing, thank you for that vulnerability. That is really beautiful, and I wish we could all open up in this way. And you've clearly done the work to be in a place where it's not triggering you. You're not shutting down,
Yeah.
and you seem like this is just part of my story. It's not defining who I am. It doesn't mean that
Mhm.
like I have to identify as struggling all the time. There are also
Yeah.
there's a
Mm.
beautiful story that came from it. So, you know, if you
Yeah.
learn something from your life experience that you feel would be helpful to others, what would you want others to know?
Yeah, I think it's really, along with getting to know yourself is like people want you truly to be yourself because everybody else wants to be their self as well.
Mhm.
And so, like, the more that you can be your most authentic expression and speak your truth, even with the hard conversations, like, there is that freedom on the other side, right? And you're giving others the permission to be their most authentic self in the process, which is so extremely rewarding and so beautiful. So, I think it's really just like allow people to see the real you. Give yourself
Mhm.
the permission to know who you are
Mhm.
and own it.
Mhm.
Own it completely.
Right. And we fear
Mhm.
judgment of other people. We're really just judging ourselves. So
Yeah.
stop the judgment, accept who you are and own it, because I think you're right. It's such a role modeling experience for other people to see someone so comfortable with who they are, and it's a domino effect. It's like, well, I want to be that way.
Yeah.
Look how comfortable they are. Look what they can do and how they live. Like that's something I want to have a goal of. So I think that's such a
Yeah.
beautiful, like it all comes around. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Like relish in your uniqueness, like
Mhm.
who wants cookie cutter? Who
Right.
wants like
Right.
plain Jane? Like be goofy, be silly, have
Yeah.
fun, like live, express, like go through all the emotions, like allow them to come to the surface and they're all just trying to tell us something, right?
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think with that, like just be you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And Kate, can you tell
Thank
people where
you.
they can find you and if they want to work with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at I am Kate Griffith. And then you can learn more about some of my services on my website, which is also iamkategriffith.com.
Well, thank you so much, Kate. This was awesome. I think it's going to really
Thank you.
inspire other people. And you should be so proud of the vulnerability you've cultivated. And what an awesome person and story. And I
Mhm.
feel honored to have talked with you and gotten to know you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Beth. I appreciate it.
Thanks. And stay tuned for another episode. And we'll see you soon. Bye.